All right, Coach, why don't you just get us started with an opening statement, then we'll take some questions.
Obviously disappointed about the outcome for a number of reasons. One, for Miami University and just general, the game means a ton to a lot of people, and obviously 33-30 till a minute left. You have a lead in the fourth quarter, the whole fourth quarter pretty much, to not make the plays at the end you need to make. Obviously, there's a lot of disappointed Miami people across the country today. So, two, for our team, it was just best game we've played since I've been here by far as a football team. Most plays we've made, physically made plays on both sides of the ball. Most contributions, crazy amount of contributions when you watch the tape Saturday night. Tons of guys contributed in what could have been a great victory for us. Obviously, it was a very close defeat. Tons of positives to build on from that standpoint. The negative is just our program needs a win like that against a really good team that won 9 games and went to a bowl game and beat a bunch of good people a year ago and is really talented and playing with a bunch of BCS players, and they've recruited over the last 5 years different players than Miami's recruited. One, because they were in a BCS league for a portion of that time, and just 2, because of where they're at. So to see that we closed the gap, there's still a gap there, but we closed the gap some athletically. I said before, at Paul Brown last year, I really felt like we were up against it. And when I watched the tape after that close game, I know both games were very close, but they weren't similar to me at all, because last year most of our team got outplayed by a significant margin. A lot of kids had a hard time competing a year ago, and there was a few guys that made a bunch of plays that really made it more competitive than the overall picture. Where you watch the game Saturday, there was, I'd say, 80% of our team, it was back and forth. Not that our kids won all the physical battles, but for every one we lost, we won one, and for every one we won, we lost one. So there's a lot of kids that can feel like, hey, I can compete against some pretty elite athletes, which Cincinnati has. So tons of good things, tons of great tape to watch. There's still we're maybe a 1.5 on a scale of 1 to 10 as far as a football team from my standpoint, as far as execution and understanding game situations and understanding different scenarios, which is disappointing because we don't make some plays that we could have made in the game, but it's also exciting to think that we have so much room for growth, and we beat a pretty good 9-win bowl-eligible team a year ago that's going to win a bunch of games this year and probably go to a pretty decent bowl game again.
No sacks and all that offense. You had to be happy with your offensive line in particular, I would think. I mean, that was just, to me, that was impressive.
It was a tale of two halves. First half offensively was fantastic. We ran the ball, we threw the ball, we protect our quarterback, we didn't turn the ball over, we didn't lay the ball on the ground. We got contributions from 3 quarterbacks, all right, 2 of them freshmen. We got contributions from 3 running backs, all 3 freshmen. We got contributions from a number of wideouts. It wasn't like we just kept throwing the ball to Frazier like we did a year ago. We threw the ball to Sam and Huddy and Rowe and everyone else. Murph was all involved. Tight ends got involved in the run and the passing game. Obviously, having Hovey and Buchanan back was a huge difference for us. And then we've been, we're working on pushing the pace offensively. That's the first day I think you're really a lot of people think we're semi-going fast. We're trying to go fast all the time. It's just we're new to it. It's not perfect. But Saturday, we got some good momentum, and we got going quicker and put Cincinnati's defense on their heels and stayed more in attack mode, which we'd like to do. Second half, 1 3-and-out, then 1 nice touchdown drive, and then it was bad the rest of the half. And we had 7 straight 3-and-outs to end the game. And when you give up a touchdown with a minute to go, we don't need to even score anymore. If we can just get a first down or 2 in 7 possessions, we win the game. And let alone we got 4 straight turnovers and put them on a couple really short fields. So the second half offensively was very disappointing from my standpoint after that second drive, because we really didn't even need points from them. We just needed to move the ball some, and they scored with 1:20 left, and we had 7 3-and-outs. You can do the math pretty quick. 1 first down eats up 1:20, and we had 7 possessions and didn't get a first down. So credit to Cincinnati's defense and making some adjustments, but we got to do a better job to sustain what we did in the first half.
Up there? Too many tools.
So this Western Kentucky team you now face next weekend, They have some similarities to UC. Accurate quarterback, a wide range of receivers. Their run game isn't quite where UC is, but what can you change this week to make sure you have a different outcome?
It'll still be a huge challenge for us. We have to do the things we did a week ago that put us in a position to win the game. Is we got to take care of the football, right? Which we didn't 2 weeks ago, and if we don't do it, it'll get ugly again this weekend. If we turn the ball over against Western Kentucky, they will short circuit the scoreboard on us. 2, we have to move the football and get points offensively. We got to get hopefully a mix of run and pass going again. When we ran the ball effectively, obviously that opens up in the pass game. When you're throwing the ball efficiently, it opens up the run game. Defensively, if you look at the Cincinnati game, except for one drive that they had, all their other touchdown drives, they had huge chunk plays. So first half, we gave up some huge chunk plays. They had 24 points. Second half, we don't give up chunk plays, and we make some plays and get some turnovers. They got 6 points in 8 possessions. They had 8 possessions second half where they got 6 points, which that's pretty good defense against Cincinnati team. But we weren't letting them get that huge long run or that huge long pass play that was setting up easy scores. We were making them drive the ball, and so that's going to be key. Western Kentucky's more than capable of driving it all day because they can run and throw. They haven't run as good this year, but they've played an SEC team and a Big Ten team, and they played a team from their league. At La Tech, they ran the ball pretty darn good. So they're more than capable. They throw the ball on everyone. We got to keep the ball in front of us. We can't let them throw it overhead. They do such a good job of spreading the field. They have so many weapons, very similar, like you said, to Cincinnati offensively. So we have our work cut out for them. We played, I thought, really, really, really good in a lot of areas Saturday, which put us in position. We got to do the same thing. We got to get to halftime. When I saw 24-23 at halftime, I felt like, okay, we got it to halftime, and then we got to fight and scratch and claw. And then if we get in the same position, we got to finish the game. You know, we got to make a couple plays offensively to not put the defense back on the field. If the defense goes back out there, we got to stop that last drive.
And Western Kentucky's defense against the run, they're allowing 225 yards per game right now. When you have playmakers like Alonzo and Kenny and Leonard, do you plan to use them more?
We're going to try to keep using them. Obviously, we used them a bunch. We ran for over 200 yards Saturday. We didn't run it, and most of it was in the first half. We ran, we could have ran for over 300 if we could have kept up. So we will definitely try to run the ball like we always do. Again, their rushing defense is not that bad. Vanderbilt's pretty good, and Indiana's pretty good. Indiana runs for a ton of yards. So, but we got to try to get a running game going. It can't be like Wisconsin where you can't get the ball back to the line of scrimmage and running game. Then all the pressure's on your pass game. They're teeing off on your quarterbacks, and it makes it more difficult. So, the biggest challenge with them still is their quarterback, because I said earlier today, and we'll say it all week. Like, I've watched, I don't know how many hours of tape on Western Kentucky, but besides when I was a secondary coach in Notre Dame and had to defend Andrew Luck 2 straight years, which was not a whole lot of fun at all. And you had to play out of your mind just to be bad against Andrew Luck because he was so talented. This is the next best quarterback I've ever seen, and I've watched. He's not. It's not. I got a buddy that's high up with the New York Giants, and I texted him last night and said, "This Doherty kid's a real deal," you know. And my buddy is in charge of player personnel with the Giants, and it's this kid. The more you watch him, he unlike last week, we felt like last week if we could take a first read away, take a second read away, we could put him in a position where he wasn't as successful, and it worked out pretty good a lot of the game. This week, you can take his first 10 reads away, and he finds the 11th guy. It is amazing what he does, and he's not mobile, all right, but he never gets sacked. You know, he never gets sacked, and he evades pressure, and he throws the ball under duress, and he has a very strong arm, but he's not Brett Favre. When you watch him, he doesn't like, oh my goodness, but he just keeps completing ball after ball after ball after ball. The amount of plays he makes ad lib, and just where he throws the ball to the guys that aren't even expecting the ball, but he throws in such a good spot they catch it anyway. So the amount of plays he makes under duress is absolutely amazing for a guy that doesn't run around. So he's fun to watch. Other than when you're playing him, he's probably one of the best players I've ever seen on tape over whatever. I've watched 13, 14 games on him, and it's week after week after week after week after week. It's amazing what he does. I've nicknamed him Harry Houdini in the pocket, because just when guys draped all over him, he still throws a hook shot, 1 foot, 1 arm, underhand. It doesn't matter. He gets the ball to receivers, and it's always catchable. And he's got a ton of receivers and tight ends and backs to use. So pretty scary dude. Wish he didn't get a 6-year back. I'm very hopeful he doesn't have a seventh.
Talking about the quarterback, how do you guys stop him? Is it going to be bringing more pressure, or is it going to be dropping more guys into
Yeah, that's a
coverage?
good question. I've seen everybody try both, and no one stopped them. So I've seen guys drop 8, drop 9. I saw somebody rush 1, and he just bides times, and it's like recess to this kid. It really is. It doesn't. I've seen people pressure him, and everyone that's pressured him, he's crushed. I mean, crushed. Like I'll show you the blitz tape. You would say, please don't pressure him, coach, if you're rooting for Miami, because everybody that brings pressure on him, he just gets rid of the ball, and there's less people back there covering. He's got tremendous, much like you see, tremendously athletic kids he's throwing the ball to that catch short passes and run for big yards, and his backs can catch it. So we're looking for somebody, the team that defended him best was Vanderbilt, and they overwhelmed him up front with SEC D linemen and linebackers and DBs. That's the only team in 2 years that's even slowed them down. I thought Marshall's defense was explosive and athletic, and they held him to 67. And he may look easy, he may look easy. Like, it was, and they had 49 at Central Michigan in 3 quarters last year in the bowl game. I know Central had one of the greatest comebacks in the history of the world. It was crazy. I watched the game. But, they had 49 in 3 quarters on the way to 100. It was easy. It wasn't a tough 49. So they're talking to guys at Central this summer. They're like, you guys got Western. Oh my goodness, that wasn't fun. So we got a lot of work ahead of us.
A little off the subject of Miami, Western Kentucky. Toledo wins at Arkansas, Bowling Green at Maryland. NIU gives Ohio State a great game at Ohio State, you guys in Cincinnati. But it's always how bad the other team played. Does it tick you off that the MAC just doesn't get the respect that it deserves?
No, I think it gets more and more respect. And I think when people look at our league, they know every year that our league wins games that were decided underdogs. And some of those games, because our top-end teams sometimes go win games and they're really not even an underdog. But I think we get a lot of respect. At the end of the day, though, it isn't a fair fight. Ohio State doesn't recruit against Northern Illinois, for just like when we went to Wisconsin, which we didn't do it, obviously, but we have to play really well in those games, and they probably don't play their best game. If Ohio State plays its best game, they won the national championship, they probably, could beat Northern Illinois by a little more. But Northern Illinois played incredibly, and Ohio State probably didn't have their A game, but that's all right. It's probably fair assessment. I think people know, though, that it's who plays well on Saturday. The credit goes to the team that either pulls the upset off, or a team like Northern who almost pulls an upset off. Everybody knows how well they played and how well they were prepared and how hard and how tough and how talented their kids are. Because if you don't have talent, you can't even be on the field with maybe Ohio State. And somebody almost beat Minnesota this week. And this week when you looked at the scores, it was either winning or just barely beating. And if you just took the MAC and the point spread, you'd had a good week, because I'm sure Northern was more than a 7-point underdog to Ohio State. We were a 20-point underdog, and there's a lot of other teams that either won or almost won that were decided underdogs because our team does have more talent.
Anything else for Coach? All right, Coach, appreciate it.
Thanks.